living a creative life or being an artist, I think, is just waking up every day and choosing to shelf whatever it is that's keeping you just living the same day over and over again, and shelf that and choose to like wake up and say like, how am I going to approach this day like with curiosity?
Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of Artist Date. I'm your host, Nicole Romanoff, and I'm so excited for today's conversation because honestly, this one feels really special. I'm joined by the incredibly talented Claire from Doxa Photography, someone I've admired for a long time, not just for her beautiful work, but for the heart and honesty she brings to every photo she takes. Claire is a wedding, family, and portrait photographer who shoots primarily on film, and there's something so raw and real about the way she captures moments. In this episode, we talk about how she got started, what drew her to film photography, and how embracing imperfection completely reignited her passion for creating. We also dive into balancing creativity with real life, overcoming burnout, and the power of slowing down to actually feel those everyday moments. Claire's perspective is refreshing, inspiring, and honestly, just what every creative needs to hear. So let's dive in, and trust me, you're going to love this one. I'm so excited that you're here. I'm a longtime fan of your work. And yeah, I feel like you're really taken off and gaining a lot of recognition, like not only just in our little province, but across Canada and even into the States. And it's really cool to see. And I'm so curious about your journey to where you are today. I feel like you're just killing it. So
thank you.
Maybe give us a little background on who you are.
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, I'm Claire, and I currently as a job and I'm a full-time photographer. Wedding photographer, family photographer, portrait. I shoot primarily on film. I would say like from a very young age, I've always had this curiosity of people and wanting to observe kind of like the nature of people and what makes people tick and what makes them come alive. And I've always loved documenting things, whether it was through photographs or through stories or journaling, things like that. And yeah, that was kind of what pushed me into wanting to be a photographer and wanting to make people feel seen. I think that was kind of at the heart of it, was understanding that I had an eye and a desire to see people and a gift to do that, and just starting to do that. And so I began kind of working under other photographers and finding mentors and leaning into trying different things, some that worked and some that didn't, and some that stuck and some that didn't. But yeah, there's been a lot of just curiosity and growth and willingness to evolve over the years that I think has brought me to where I am now. And it looks maybe a lot different on the external from where I started. There's a lot more skill and there's a lot more, there's a lot of change in the work now. But I think even when I go back through old files of my work, I can still see like a connection piece of this heart behind it. And yeah, that's really cool.
How long have you been doing it now?
I think it's been eight years, like professionally. Yeah.
And was there like an experience or something that really pushed you to turn it into like a career, a business?
That's a good question. Yeah, I was a bartender and I was kind of doing it on the sidelines and enjoying that, but I looked up to and admired a lot of other photographers that I saw that were able to take this as a career. And I think not even just photographers, but artists in general. Like I always knew there was something about me that was maybe different or that wasn't really after like a status quo life. And I was never really told that I could do that. And so then when I started to see people pursuing a creative life and living out a job or a career in the arts, I began wanting that and trying to chase that more for myself. And I just began like filling my life with as many creative people as I could and trying to absorb every little bit of information that I could and imitate and create and try and fail and make horrible art and make good art. And yeah.
Have you always been a film photographer?
Yeah, no, I haven't. I've tried film through the years, and film photography kind of came into play. I'd say like there were a few different like tipping points in my career, and film started to play a big role after it was a pretty big year. I shot a lot of weddings. I traveled a lot. I was getting pretty burnt out, and I think doing the same thing over and over again. And I was really unfulfilled with my work, even though everyone else was very fulfilled with my work, and I was getting praise and people were liking what I was doing. And so there was no like error there, but I think just like my own heart was feeling like, I don't feel totally creative. I don't feel like I'm doing what I have the potential to do. And so I think one of those big tipping points was when I started shooting film, and it honestly just like revived my desire to take photographs. It's like brought a whole new like life and childlike wonder, because I was like a child, like hopping into it, having to relearn how to take photos in this way. And so, yeah, I think, that's kind of how I brought film into my work.
Yeah, it is very special. I wouldn't say I do have film cameras and I love them, but I feel very intimidated by them.
Yeah.
And I am still kind of, I feel like figuring out the process of where to develop, because I'm learning like that makes a big difference. And I don't even fully understand why that makes a big difference, but I'm learning that there is a difference. Yeah. And then I've even been doing some research where it says to get your images printed and then scan them, and they'll be even like better quality. And I'm like, what? I'm so confused right now, but I'll try it. Yeah. But even just knowing, because with film, you still have the ways of, increasing light and that sort of thing with your aperture, but you're kind of almost limited in a way, or like maxed out at a certain point, because if you have, say, like ISO 400 or something like that, and your camera only goes down to 2.8, then it's like, well, it's too dark to even try at this point. And so I feel like I'm still kind of navigating that film world, but I'm so fascinated by it. And I recently purchased a Mamiya
645.
Is it 645? RZ67. Oh, I have this Super 645, which I might be selling.
Fun.
And then I have the RZ67, right, SJ? Okay. It's been a while since I played with them, because I feel like
it's a full frame camera then?
Yeah. Okay. I just feel like a bit intimidated. Oh, medium format. Yeah. Yeah. But I feel I want to use it more, but I feel intimidated by it. Yeah. So I'm curious to learn what cameras you use and how you go about like shooting a wedding day using just film.
Definitely. I think there's a lot of diversity in the cameras I use. So giving myself, I guess, ample opportunity to play with, say, lighting isn't the greatest with flash or with external lighting like spotlights or things like that. My work is I'm not bright and airy or dark and moody. I really follow whatever the light is kind of thing. So if it is brighter, it will be brighter. And if it's darker and moodier, I like to play off of that and allow the photographs to be moody and ambient. And because that's how it felt in the moment. Like if there's a space that's only lit up by candles, I don't try and add too much, maybe like a soft, warm spotlight. Yeah. But being able to see what does a face look like just with the glow of a candlelight and trying to capture that essence as good as possible. So yeah, I shoot on a few different cameras. Some of my favorites are very, very cheap cameras. I shoot on a couple of different like Canon Rebels, which I think are like $100 cameras, and you can put your own digital like Canon lenses onto it, which is really nice.
Okay. And that's a film camera?
Those are 35 millimeter cameras.
Okay.
Yeah. And they perform a lot similarly to the Canon digital cameras. So that was a really great kind of
ease into it.
Yeah. Because I understood, I guess, the mechanics of the Canon camera already. Yeah. And there's a lot of really great, there's like a light meter inside of it.
Yeah.
And there's automatic settings if you need it and those kinds of things to lean on. So I shoot on a few of those. I shoot on some point and shoots. A Contax G1 is something I added to my kit this year.
Those are expensive, hey? I think I was looking that up and they're like $1,000 used, right?
Yeah, so there's G1 and there's a G2. The G2 is like wildly more expensive than the G1. They both have like detachable lenses, which is really nice because the Carl Zeiss lenses work with the Contax bodies, and those are just really great lenses. And so I asked a friend who had both of them, and she didn't notice a huge difference compared to the cost difference. And so she was like, go for the G1. And I've loved it. It is a really fun point and shoot camera, and I think point and shoots, they can be $5 and it's still really fun and you can still get really cool photos, but it's been fun having like a point and shoot that's very trustworthy and still can get me really clear and concise photos. So I like that one a lot. I have some other, cheaper point and shoots, a Holga, which is like a plastic camera that they sell on like Amazon for I think $100, and it's the lens I believe even is plastic. Everything's plastic. So on a wedding, and that's a medium format camera.
Oh, it is.
And so
for $100.
Yeah, and so I take square photographs in that one, and then it only allows me to take 12 photos. But those 12 photos are so cool. It is a really neat little camera, and it always surprises me and blows me away what it's capable of. Double exposures are really easy on that because it's all hand forwarding the film. So you can just stay on a frame as long as you want. And I throw a flash on it and it's great for party photos. People are like, what is that? Why are you like taping it up with hockey tape?
Yeah.
I'm like, because it will fall apart if I don't. It's a piece of crap, but just wait. It will take really cool photos. But a lot about my work is like chasing after some of that imperfection. And so I wouldn't say I'm a huge gear junkie. I think since starting with film, I've cared a lot more about gear than when I did with digital. But I do appreciate some of the imperfection because I think it kind of plays off of like just the imperfection of humanness and helping people feel like the work is more relatable. And
And don't you find that, with digital, it's almost like the reverse because you're taking like a super crystal clear photo and then you're kind of creating those imperfections after. Whereas when you're using like a camera that's maybe $100 or, it's obviously maybe not like your top tier camera, but it has like a really cool effect. So it's almost like it's creating the effect in the moment rather than taking it perfectly and then making it kind of more obscure afterwards.
Yeah. And I think it's like one of those things that just finding the right clientele that's okay with, I guess, the nature of film and that there's going to be maybe mistakes and errors and things can go wrong. You're shipping your photos away.
Right. Have you ever had an experience go wrong?
Thank God, no.
Okay, that's good.
It is still like, it feels risky, I guess. Riskier than having the memory cards in your hand. But yeah, I think it just like, there's a lot of communication that has to go into that with your clients. And thankfully, a lot of my clientele is not after their day captured maybe like meticulously and more just like a human perspective. And that's what I offer really well is just like, I think a presence and like a willingness to just enter in and document it as it is. If there's tears and we're going to capture it. And if there's a rain plan, we're going to fall in love with it. And
So do you shoot at all with digital anymore? Or is it 100% film?
Yeah, I do. I wouldn't say I have a shoot anymore that I won't shoot a roll of film, just because it gives a really great base for my digital edits, and it helps me to have a bit of a guide on how I want to edit that session, just because the film will perform differently in different lights.
Interesting.
So it gives a really nice what's the word for that, like a base point, I guess, to build your edits off of, because I try and mimic film with my digital editing. So my galleries are probably like 50-50 film and digital, sometimes more, sometimes less.
Okay. And do you charge differently with film?
Yeah. Right now I do. It's because, I mean, it does just cost a lot.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things that I do take on sometimes, some of those costs, if it's just personal or whatever else practice. But it does, it needs to be compensated. So I think there's a lot of ways you could go about that. You could have all of your packages include film, but for me, it's still kind of an add-on. But I don't have anybody that doesn't want it. So it is nice. I do always get to shoot it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Where do you ship your film?
Kind of a couple different places. So Photovision Prints is in the States. They're a really great professional lab and have like a ton of resources online for beginners and people wanting to understand like what's happening and how to shoot film and what am I doing? How do I ship it? All the logistics of it. They're really, really helpful and really great customer service. And so like sending there, it's in the States though, and it is more costly. So I primarily send to C41, also a really great Canadian lab. And I just kind of started working with them the last year, and I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah. I think you recommended them to me.
Okay,
and
good.
I went there in person, so it was kind of cool too.
That's amazing.
Yeah, when I was working in Toronto, the studio that I was working out of was like the street over from C41.
Okay.
So I would do my shoot and then drop it off, and it was really fun because then I didn't have to like wait to mail it off and go through all that. It's really nice
like
having
a quicker
the lab
turnaround too.
Actually
really
it was like
nice.
The next day.
I could
they're
get
very
used
fast.
To this. Yeah, and shipping within Canada is generally just faster, so I get my film back faster.
Yeah,
and so I've enjoyed that. I enjoy them. They're great.
And what's your go-to choice of film?
I love Portra 400. I love Cinestill 800 for receptions. That's like the film stock if you've ever seen like a red glowy kind of glow on like any sort of light source. So like if it was daytime, like the sun or the windows would have like a red glow in them. Okay. But if it's evening, the candles will all have a bit of like a red tint. I really like that because I think people are after red right now, and it is really fun. So I use that. I love black and white film. I have a number of different ones I like to use. Ilford is a favorite. Lady Grey, lots of different ones. So yeah.
And when you're shooting, do you have like one of those camera belts on where you have 40 cameras on you?
Yeah, on a wedding day I usually have like maybe 5 cameras on me and then a couple more like in rotation in my bag that I'll kind of bring out during certain scenarios. But I try during like a family shoot or a couple shoot to maybe only use like 3 or 4, but it's quite hard. I like having like the diversity of each of them because they all do such different things.
They bring a different look. Is it difficult to know how many like rolls of film to bring for a wedding? Like, because you can't, it's not like you can go to your neighborhood photo store in the middle of a wedding.
Yeah, that kind of like plays into a bit of my process, I guess. Before a wedding, I like to sit with the schedule and visualize what do I hope to do, because I think like creativity bounces like these kind of two. It's like a paradox, or like when two opposing truths,
dichotomy sort of,
where it's like you're open to the wind taking you, and like kind of letting the creative flow work and those kinds of things. But I also think it's necessary to have like some strictness and some clear-cut plan for yourself. So I go into a wedding usually with a good plan, but also this knowing that it could all just not go my way, and that's okay. And it's not my day. It's a loose plan. So I like to kind of map out where I'm going to use which cameras and how many photos I guess I expect to take at each of those kind of settings. And yeah, anywhere from like 10 to 20, 30 rolls of film.
Right.
So
Yeah,
I usually pack extra
expense,
just to make sure. But
yeah. I guess then you would always have like your digital camera on backup if you ever, were running. That would be a lot of shots in a day on film. I find when you shoot film, you actually shoot less because you're like, oh, I got that.
Yeah, and it's like there's no continuous shooting. It's one shot, and I really appreciate that because it does help to slow down. And so I have like my point and shoots for some of those more like quick off the cuff moments where it's like there's no time to think. It's just like it's happening. And if I don't take a photo now, there's no evidence that it happened. So I have that kind of a couple of those always on me, point and shoot style cameras. And then my more, I guess, manual cameras that take a bit more thought. And hopefully I'm going into each of those settings thinking, okay, around this time, I'm going to need this setting. And going in with a bit of a plan. So it's not like I have to do all the mental math.
That's smart.
In a moment.
And do you have an assistant that would change your camera film for you while you're working?
Yeah, I think it depends on like the heaviness of a wedding day. If there's a lot of guests, if there's a lot to be captured, then yes, sometimes. I like working alone, but I do love having a creative buddy or a partner to work alongside and bounce ideas off. And I used to not like having second shooters when I shot digital, and now I really, really enjoy having second shooters. I think especially I try and find second shooters that also shoot film, and getting to see their film at the end of it is really rewarding. And I think creatively just like flows really well when you have a partnership or someone to bounce ideas off of.
What would you recommend to people that want to be a second shooter?
Oh, I don't know if I'm the best person to ask that because I don't seek out second shooters a ton. I think it would maybe be like, maybe I'll start with like what I didn't love about second shooters maybe when I was shooting like digital weddings was I would love to see like a desire and willingness to help. And so sometimes that wasn't always the case. And like a desire and willingness to like show up and be creative and be like collaborating and sharing ideas. I really, really enjoy that and having that flow. And also, the desire to like fetch me a glass of water or like feed me or like, because I don't always have time to do those things on a wedding day. And
or aren't really thinking about them either because you're so focused.
And I can definitely neglect my physical self on a wedding day. So
for sure,
having a partner alongside. So sometimes like honestly just having one of my close friends come be an assistant, somebody that's not even a photographer is kind of my preference. So maybe I wouldn't be the best person to ask about second shooters, but
do you have people reach out to you via like Instagram?
Yeah, and I think definitely. And I know I can say like from my point of view, when I was second shooting a lot, it was like reaching out to anybody I was inspired by and trying without fear of, I guess, rejection and being confident in what you have to offer and trying to understand what you have to offer and offering it to as many people as you can or you would like to. And
when I think of you, there's like a handful of photographers that I think of shooting worldwide all the time. And I'm so fascinated by it because I'm like, how did they do it? Like how is it that you have a shoot in Milan one week and then a shoot in like, coastal BC the next?
Yeah.
Like I'm so fascinated by how you kind of grew that side of your business.
Yeah. I definitely have gotten to go to a few places to photograph and it's been very exciting. To get there, I think it was a lot of social media, like a lot of reaching out to people in those places, reaching out to maybe influencers or influential people, not necessarily influencers, but people of influence that I would just, land in their inbox and say, hey, can I take your photo? And they either say yes or they don't answer because they don't have time. And
right.
I try and take risks, I guess, as far as like trying to, if I had a dream to maybe go to a place, just like booking that trip and then filling the space with shoots after. So I think a lot of times it would start maybe with one single inquiry or one booking and then trying to fill around that as much as I could and build in the space with marketing through just, hey, I'm going to this place. Is there anybody there? Or specifically reaching out to people and saying, I'm coming to your city. Would you like photographs? I know you live there. And I think some people like forget you exist. So sometimes it's okay to like sell yourself a little bit and market yourself and put yourself in people's inbox and remind them of what you offer. And so, those kinds of things.
I think that's so cool that you reached out to Quigley and that all worked out.
Yeah, she's so sweet. She's an angel. I've had like a lot of fun experiences like that where it's been like, I just have, DM'd a celebrity or somebody that I've been influenced by and have gotten to photograph them. And she's such a sweetheart, and it was really cool to get to connect and take her portrait.
I think that's really cool, and I think that this is so valuable to people that are listening that kind of see you doing these cool things, and it's like, it is accessible to everybody. You just have to be willing to like put yourself out there.
Absolutely.
And take the chance and know that there will be rejection, but if you maybe do it enough times, you're going to strike at some point.
Yeah, and I think there's like, a lot of like fear of rejection and fear of like, I'm not good enough. And I think like, if you're not good enough, get better, like practice. You are just as capable as I. And I would hate to see you like live in this mindset of like, I'm not good enough, because
self-doubt, right?
It's baloney. Like we all are like capable of, hiring a mentor to teach us or going to a workshop or trying to learn and grow and be the best that we can. And
I think it's all about putting that little self-doubt dude in a closet and being like, okay, you hang out here while I go and like improve myself. But sometimes he's really noisy and he can really get in the way. But
totally. And I think like living a creative life or being an artist, I think is just like waking up every day and choosing to like shelf the fear or the whatever it is that's keeping you just like living the same day over and over again, and shelf that and choose to like wake up and say like, how am I going to approach this day like with curiosity and with like these what ifs and like childlike wonder, and how would that change my life and therefore my work? And
do you ever find you get in a creative rut?
That's a good question.
Or feel uninspired?
Yeah, I think we talked about like that tipping point like a couple years ago when I began like taking my film more seriously and that kind of thing. And I think in that time there was also quite a shift in my own life, because I think for the longest time I would show up to photo shoots and I'd feel, or, something creative, and show up and be like, wow, I saw the light, I saw color, I was so creative, I was alive, I was so fulfilled. And then go home and you're like, why do I only feel that when I'm there? And I think I hear that a lot from people that I mentor, is like, I every so once in a while get the right couple or the right family and it feels so creatively fulfilling, but I want all my couples to feel that way, or I want all my work to feel that way, and I want to get the right clients. And I think it's so much of just like our own selves that's the problem. And so I think that it came to a point where I was tired of only feeling creative in, I guess, like the creative boxes in my life. And I was like, I want to feel creative always. I want to like wake up and live into this identity of being an artist first and giving myself permission to dress like an artist, to speak like an artist, to brush my teeth like an artist, to wash the dishes like an artist, to like approach every single thing I do as art. And wow, like that transforms work, like my work and what I make. What was the question?
I'm actually not sure anymore.
Creative ruts.
Yes. Yeah.
But yes, I think I do not get creative ruts as much or really at all. Maybe like if I'm sick or if I'm like physically unwell, I definitely will have these times where I'm emotionally lower, or the winter months and those kinds of things. But I try and give myself permission, or even try and force myself a little bit to wake up every day and like see the sun and be curious of what a day could hold, even if I'm tired or sick, right? There's still something there. And I'm a mom, and like a lot of my days are very mundane or normal, and
or
but
routine,
at the same
maybe?
time, they're at the same time they're not. There's like creativity in like my child not wanting to get dressed and me having to sit on the floor and figure out, how are we going to do this? How am I going to get you to want to get dressed? And so I think a lot less creative ruts when I started just putting creativity like into a rut, I guess, like into a hole where it's like I have to go seek this thing, or I have to go find this thing in this certain place, or go see, these extravagant mountaintop moments. But I think there's a lot more stability in like my creativity, because it's an everyday like living and breathing entity, and something that we all have within us always and have access to. So
and there's so much magic to be said in like each moment. So that's amazing that you're able to almost like appreciate those moments. Like that actually sounds to me like you're living in the moment. You're not dreaming of, when I'm on this beach, I'm going to allow myself to open up to like what's around me.
And that's funny that you say that, because as I was preparing for this podcast, one of your questions was like, where do you imagine yourself in 5-10 years? And I think I have built such a rhythm of like presence and trying to be just so in the moment, because I think doing that is, and like choosing to live in creativity or in art or in presence or whatever you want to call it, is like the ultimate antidote to all the negativity and all of the hard things going on in this world. And it unites us all, and it allows us to like feel seen, and allows, pictures or words to go towards like the human experience, that we can try and understand it a little bit better. And so when I think of like far off dreams, I don't think I have a ton of those. I think I'm so happy and content with my life, and I love every day that I live so much.
That's awesome.
And not to say it's not very hard and very emotional. I'm a very emotional person, but there's, I think just so much magic in every day.
So what kind of work do you find really lights you up? Like when you when a client reaches out to you that you're like so excited, or what kind of work would that be?
I love people that also, I guess, love life and love chasing art and creativity. So maybe they're artists, or maybe they're not. Maybe they just have like a love for art and a love for creativity. I love people that have, I guess, a willingness to kind of let go, or let me take the reins. I love people that are willing to give me like vulnerability and bits of their story and allow me into their world. I in my inquiry form, or in my pricing packages or whatever, when I send to couples, it says something about like, I want to be like a part of your table. Like I want to be invited in, and maybe figuratively or literally, but I want I want to be able to feel what it feels like to be one of your friends, or to be experiencing you and noticing you as someone that loves you and cares about you. But that is definitely like a back and forth relationship. And yeah, so I think people that are, willing to be vulnerable and willing to do that like dance of creativity and collaboration. And
what I love about your work, like when I look at it, especially when it's like the families, it's almost, I don't know if you're spending the day with them, but it does come through that you are accepted and everyone seems very relaxed and like you're capturing them in these really unique moments. And the one that comes to mind right now, well, there's a few, but I feel like there's some where like you're in their living room with them and nothing is really like posed. I'm so curious how you capture that. Like, are you with them for a few hours to like kind of just observe them, or do you direct them a little bit?
I am usually with them for some time, like usually anywhere from an hour or two to half a day, and kind of depending on, I guess, the flow or the desire that a family has for their session. So some people want to like be at this house, but then go to their parents' house and also take photos. So that would include maybe more transitions and therefore more time. But again, trying to go in with a little bit of like a visual timeline, like we're going to maybe start here and flow from there so that it's not just ultimate chaos. But I think family photography for me is so fun because children are just like the ultimate truth tellers. They don't like hide any piece of themselves. They'll go to the bathroom with the door open when a guest is over and they'll, say they want a snack and then lay out and rip the shirt off that their mom picked out for photos. And it's just so honest. And I think that's what's drawn me so much to family photography. It's a little bit harder to get adults to crack in that way and be fully themselves. But with kids, you don't have to tell them to do much. And honestly, the less you tell them to do, the more you get to see of them. And so I usually approach a family shoot and I, hi parents, whatever. But I usually try and connect with the children as quickly as I can and get them trusting me and feeling like I'm a friend. And so that can look like, hey, can you show me your favorite toy? Or can I see your room? Or do your parents let you jump on the bed? Or like, should we go steal a snack? Or let's go raid the pantry, or, whatever it is, and try and connect with whatever age of child it is and get them feeling like I'm a trustworthy person and they can show me the things that they love and be in their space comfortably, even though strangers in their space also, which can be a hard feat. But kids make it very easy.
Yeah. That's so special. Yeah. Like those are such meaningful moments because like kids are only kids for like such a short period of time. To be able to capture like their character and like you said, if they're in their room and doing all the fun things that they love to do is so special. And I think will be so meaningful for a family to look back at later.
And I think like after connecting with a child in that way, they have more trust and they have more willingness to listen to you. And so I know some family photographers or even myself in the past would be like, let's start with the posed photos and then we can let chaos ensue. But I think that already like creates a bit of a tension point between you and the kid because it's like, who is this stranger? And now why are they telling me what to do? And I don't really like them or that much. And then I think you end up missing out on some of that like genuine nature of them. So I try and, it comes with maybe a little bit of prep. And I think my work shows that I'm not really after capturing perfection, but it does take a little bit of prep of mostly the parents of like, they're not going to misbehave, but you don't misbehave, mom. Yeah. Like, I don't want you like bossing them around or, getting like you, as much as you can like be at ease, they'll be at ease and we'll all be at ease and we'll be able to have a lot of fun.
How did you get to that style of photography? Like, did you have someone that you were inspired by, or because that isn't necessarily like the traditional approach to family photography, but it's so beautiful. But I'm just curious how you got to like learn of it or, try it.
Yeah, there's a few photographers that I admire that do kind of documentary work and that kind of thing. But I think a big inspiration for like the style of work that I do with my clients is my own like personal work and what I shoot of my own family, because it is, for the most part, I have a point and shoot like laying around the house at all times. Sometimes my son grabs it and takes a photo of me like going to the bathroom or something. Like there's some of the worst photos on those rolls of film. But it's like getting those back and having like this diary, I guess, of our days is what motivated me and makes me feel so passionate about what I do, because I realize people don't get to see their life like displayed in this kind of magic. And I want everybody to have like a legacy or something that they can hold on to remember these days, because they're so fleeting. And so I'd say like my own personal work was really influential in that, because I had a lot less rules for myself in the ways that I photographed my family. And I was like, some of these are so bad and some of these are so good. And some of these are beautiful and some of these are ugly, but somehow I'm okay with all of them, and I
don't you
enjoy
find, like,
all of them.
The bad photos is what makes them good sometimes.
Yes,
it's like,
absolutely.
I love how this is completely out of focus, but it just captured the right moment.
Absolutely,
Or what you were talking about really reminds me of one of my favorite books, which is a book of Linda McCartney's Polaroids. And it's just like
cool.
her like Polaroids of her family, like growing up, and they're just so fun. And, I guess not like technically perfect photos, but they're so beautiful. And I feel like I would love to have that, or maybe I do. I should really ask my parents if they have any like photos of that. But it's just so, for your kids, I can see that just being so special for them to look back at over the years.
Yeah. And I think, like you mentioned, old photographs. And I think that's also been a huge inspiration for me, is finding old family albums at the thrift store, or personal works, or artists' collections of older film photographs, and like the way families were documented, because it costs a lot to, shoot a roll of film. A roll of film is only anywhere from, 12 photos to 36 photos. And you don't know if someone closed their eyes in that moment, but you're most likely not going to take like 4 photos of that moment. And so the one with the eyes closed is perfect. It's exactly perfect, because it's just exactly what it was. And that's, I think there is like a lot of letting go of like perfectionism and like, that could be a little bit different, or I should have, stood here. And there's technicality to it, because there's ways to do it maybe right or ways to do it wrong. But there is like something about like the best photograph is the one that you took. Like it's sometimes there isn't a chance to go back. And so I've really appreciated looking at old family albums and getting to see like some of the imperfections of that and trying to like play off of that.
Right. Well, in the end, photography is capturing a moment. Well, that's just kind of like how life is, right? Like it's not always perfect. And perfect is, let's be honest, a little bit boring, right? So I think that the imperfections is what kind of creates the beauty in it. In the moment, and makes it more connectable too, right?
Absolutely. And like I always say, like I want somebody that wasn't there to be able to like smell the photo or taste the photo. And as much as I can, like I want to paint a picture of all the elements of what went into that moment. And
you do that really well.
Thank you.
Yeah, you really do.
Appreciate that.
What would you say has been your greatest challenge in photography as a career?
I think like finding work-life balance. I think pursuing an artistic career could be like an incredibly foolish decision. It's like, it's hard. There's so much of, you infuse so much of yourself into your work, and now your work is subject to other people's opinions, and maybe they don't like the way they look, and therefore your work is bad, or that photo's bad. And so it's a good photo to me could be a bad photo to you. And I think it's like, let those things meet, like Venn diagram style, like work and life, but don't let them like bleed into each other. And there can be some crossover. Like I talked a lot about how I feel like my life as a creative has impacted my work, and my work impacts my life, but my work is not my life, and I'm not like a photographer first. Just like I would hope that, you know, a nurse wouldn't just be a nurse first. Like there's so much more to a person. And so I think learning to separate the two to prevent burnout, or to prevent becoming like creatively stagnant, or those kinds of things, I think that would be some of like the greatest challenges. Learning not to like overbook myself, undersell myself.
You kind of have to make all of those mistakes in order to learn them.
Those mistakes. Yes, you have to. Yeah, you have to kind of live through the error, and then be willing to evolve, and like be willing to say like that. This isn't working, and that's okay. I can try something else here.
It is okay. I think that would be a lot of, photographers that I've talked to. We all kind of struggle with that, because if it's your main source of income, it's hard to say no to paying work. You're like, well, I should take this because like I want money and I need money to live. So it's hard to find that balance.
Yeah. And I think for myself, like, more than I want money, I want time. Like I want time with my kids. I want time with the people I love. I want time to make art. And sometimes I'm creatively fulfilled by the work I'm creating. And sometimes it's not the most creatively fulfilling, but like filling those voids for yourself and learning how to take care of yourself and balance. Yeah.
How do you stay creatively fulfilled? Like, do you do a lot of creative work, or is it mostly capturing your family that kind of fills your cup that way?
Yeah, I would say I paint a lot with my kids. I write, I make pottery, I knit, I sew. I love making things and creating things and crafting, and sometimes I'm doing it at home with my toddlers, and their paint ends up on my painting, and so it's a good practice in letting go control for sure. But yeah, I think like the sun does wonders. Being outside, I think that can heal just about anything. Nature. Is like going for a walk, touching a tree, being with my friends. Like I have such great support around me, and I feel so creatively inspired by the lives that they live. And
how are you so like grounded? Like you have this grounding energy. Like I'm just curious if you've always kind of had like this sort of calmness, or if it's something that you've like grown into. Do you meditate?
That's nice. I have ADHD, so I'm I'm also like bouncing off the walls usually, but maybe more in my brain. My brain I'm bouncing around the walls. But I would say like I practice meditation and like try and move my body and be in tune with myself. And I fail at that a lot, but I do. Yeah, I think just like practice. It's like a muscle to be present and to be in tune with what's happening. And I think it was Liz Gilbert. There's this book I really enjoy called Big Magic.
Love that book.
Yeah, it's a good one. And she talks about like creativity, like this entity and a creative idea kind of as an entity, and like if you don't grab onto it, somebody else will. And it has to find a living being to like come out of. And so if you don't, it's not a big deal, but somebody else will. And so I think it's just like trying to grab onto as many ideas and try as many things as I can and be a good friend and a good listener and a good learner and a good mother and I'm just
seems like you're doing all those things.
trying.
Yeah. Do you have any big projects that are on like your wish list, or someone that you would love to photograph?
So the last couple of years, I've gotten to host artist retreats on Vancouver Island for groups of artists, and we rent like a big, beautiful cottage and hire people to come teach yoga and meditative breathing and art. And this year we had like an Indigenous beater, and so just like a creative retreat. And that kind of was birthed out of maybe this shift that happened a couple years ago, where I was like, I don't want to work more. I don't want to hustle more. I want to anti-work. I want to relax. I want to put my body into a stream and feel the earth and live and laugh with my friends. And I know we all have to work, but trying to create a life that's more full of those things, and realizing in the photography world there wasn't so much support for artists in that way and care as much as there was, like, content building days. And I appreciate those things too, and I love hosting those, being at those, but I saw like a need for teaching other photographers to be in tune with the seasons and to be in tune with rest and not just overworking themselves. And so 2 years ago, we hosted our first one. It was called Solace. And this last year, we got to do one again. And they're usually by the ocean, and we do cold dips. Amazing. And so much giggles and so much good food. And my friend group comes, and they're like the chefs for the week, and they cook us incredible meals. And so I think things like that, those are things that really excite me these days. Seeing my work in print, like getting to focus more on maybe some of the landscape photos I've taken over the years, and getting to see those things in the flesh. Yeah, those kinds of things.
Do you have any retreats coming up?
I would say I'll probably do a third annual one in November.
Do you have a wait list?
I do have like a pretty good group of people that are pretty, that would probably defend their spot pretty strongly, but nice. It's always, it feels like it always fills up just as it's supposed to, and with the right people that are meant to be there. So yeah, I also love just like one-on-one coaching people or mentoring people in my off season, and getting to photograph people. And yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Where can people find you and get a hold of you?
Oh, probably Instagram. That would probably be the best place. Doxa Photography is my business handle.
Perfect. And your website?
www.doxaphotography.com.
Perfect. Well, I've really enjoyed our time together.
Oh, thank you, Nicole.
Thank you so much.
I have enjoyed this. You're awesome. And I just love what you're doing, creating a space for artists and a platform to hear people. And yeah, it's amazing. So thankful for you.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Artist Date. If you enjoyed it, please take a moment to subscribe and leave a rating. It really helps more creatives like you discover the show. Don't forget to follow along on Instagram at Artist Date Podcast for behind-the-scenes updates, inspiring content, and more. New episodes drop every Tuesday. Can't wait to connect with you again soon.